Okay. I was wondering if you could introduce yourself.
Sure, Barry Kale, I'm principal at Ipswich High School.
Barry, thanks for having us. One of a concern that a lot of our residents have is with the co-located model is the question about the mingling between middle school students and high school students. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what your experience has been with that,
Sure.
maybe some of the issues and non-issues as you've seen them.
That was a shared concern when we were building this building. We certainly heard a lot of it as we were leading up to that. And what we tried to accommodate, first off, they always came on the same bus, and they still come on the same bus. We really accommodated for it with, we have a schedule that doesn't necessarily jibe, so we start at the same time, end at the same time, but they very rarely see each other in the course of a day. We share the library, we share the cafeteria though at different times, so in passing maybe they would see each other. We fix off the different classroom areas so that middle school kids stay in their area, high school kids do not go into the middle school areas. And so we've really never had a problem with it. Over 10 years, not one problem that's related to that issue.
Another thing I know you had talked about was just in terms of how the kids organize themselves. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, they sort, and they self-sort, in effect. So that 17-year-olds really don't want to spend a whole lot of time with 11-year-olds. And so even if the circumstance was there, they're on doing their own thing in the course of a day. And then after school, they get back on the bus again.
Together.
There was also a question before your project began in the community about should you renovate your two buildings versus building this one building.
Yeah.
Can you address that?
Sure. That the high school was a 60s style flat roof. Nothing attractive about it. It certainly didn't enhance education. So the high school, there was more of a consideration that the high school wasn't a good investment to try and modify it or enhance it. Middle school was an old wood structure with a nice facade, but the state wasn't going to put any money into that. And so initially it was going to be a high school, and then the more we looked at the costs, the more they evaluated long-term costs. This shared development, building a building where we shared it, allowed us to do some things that the high school wouldn't have been able to do. For instance, our theater, I'm not sure that we would have been able to put the theater in if we had had just the high school. But when you put the two populations together, it warranted doing that. The same with the gyms that we have. The interior design for us was actually driven by the middle school, very student-centered with the kivas and the five-sided classrooms, and that's benefited us incredibly. So there was both a learning curve for us in the 6 or 8 months of understanding it, working some numbers up, what made sense financially, and then getting that information out to people so they also understood what we were seeing.
I'm just going to leave a few cards.
Come on in, they just take it,
Actually, he was just giving his impressions of the intermingling between the high school and the middle school kids, and also from a programmatic sense, the benefits of having a co-located school. And I was wondering if you could just introduce yourself and give the same, what your impressions were.
Oh, I answered mine, but you can answer.
So who are you?
I'm Cheryl Forster Cahill, principal of the Ipswich Middle School.
Thank you.
And so we're in our 10th year here in this merged middle high school building. So in terms, it has been exciting and challenging and nothing but good. So I want to say that. Better than we expected. And the contamination factor is we found to be a moot point. The kids completely and totally self-sort. And there's very little in common that an 11 or 12-year-old has with a 17 or 18-year-old. And so other than being a role model and looking up to the older kids, the high school kids are actually generally very sensitive and kind. They remember what it's like to be in middle school. And so we've never found it to be an issue ever in any of our shared spaces, library, halls, and classes are all, of course, scheduled separately.
Let me just add, one of the things that...
Can you just define contamination, because if this is a shortcut, it's going to sound medical. Can you just...
There was a strong parent concern when we began this project about whether or not 11 and 12-year-olds could be schooled in the same place as 17 and 18-year-olds, and that, in fact, bad behavior or activities or experiences might be shared in a way that was negative for the younger students, and that it might in some way be harmful for them. And we found that not to be the case at all. And in 10 years, we seriously have not even dealt with it on any level.
You know, an interesting positive byproduct of coming together too was our middle schools. When I deal with 8th graders over the next couple of months, this is already their building.
Right.
And my pods look like their pods. We
Right.
just function differently. So we function more with academic clusters, and you know, there's a different expectation built into it. But in terms of lockers or being in the building or coming to school, all that's taken care of. Our transition and our orientation changes dramatically.
Right.
It's actually it's a 7-year stretch straight through from middle school through graduation, which eases the anticipation of the next level, I think, by a lot. By a lot. It's really a seamless transition from one school to the next.
Just one last thing in this program sense, just from the structure. You mentioned pods and clusters and such. I was wondering, just for any of our folks that might watch this, just what that is and what that means for you.
Well, so do you want to do the pods piece?
The pods are an integral part of our instruction, and we consider that to be our watering hole in the center of each of our middle school villages, if you will. So each grade has a watering hole, a pod that is the community space where we teach and we share and we learn, and that's the hub. And so each of the pods has a different culture and a feel to it as the kids developmentally get a little older. But it is the center of their universe, frankly, and it's a very intimate, familial space. Breaks a big building into very small, manageable, instructional learning spaces.
And from the high school end of it, what have you found to be the benefits of emulating that structure?
Yeah, for the high school end, there are 3 relatively small, almost neighborhoods that have been created. So one's math science, another one is English and social studies, and then the third is foreign language and a little bit of science as well. It's kind of merged faculty together. It has them just naturally dealing with each other and talking and planning, and nobody is far away from anybody else. It's put a lot of eyes in the hallways. There's very little dead hallway space, and it's created a very kind of positive atmosphere and culture, and I think it promotes calmness during the day.
One thing that I've noticed is that if in a physical space such as these teaching pod areas are, communication and collaboration are key to improving student success. And if you can't or are unwilling to collaborate or communicate in a space like that, the problem is you. That this has, the corridors and the boxes is gone, which is incredibly isolating. And this promotes a totally collaborative atmosphere that is good for the kids to see as well. And so as long as, if you can build in the time for that collaboration and to do that data analysis and sharing, it's a win-win. It's a high level of professionalism that you can attain.
Well, I don't know if there are any other questions, but other than that, thank you very much for your time
You're
and
welcome,
your
guys.
insight.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.